Hello YouTubers, Truz here, back with another update to my schematic to command block utility. If you don't know what that is, probably haven't been watching my channel long. It's a utility that I've created that will take a schematic from a program such as MC Edit or other Minecraft utilities and convert it into one or more command block commands that will recreate that schematic. So let's show you how it works. I will tab away here for a second. Let's get looking forward. And you'll get a zip. It'll be linked below. Inside that zip will be a jar file. This utility currently only works for Minecraft Java, so I'm assuming you have Java installed. If you do, just double click on the jar file to start the program. Basically, for most things, you can just ignore all the settings and click choose schematic. I'm going to go to my directory with my test schematics, and I'm going to choose this creeper schematic. You just click open. It's 10 blocks wide, which is east-west. It's 14 long, which is north-south. 27 high, total volume, blah blah blah. One command to generate. Highlight the whole thing. Make sure you have the whole thing even to the end of this line. This words wraps a little strangely, but as long as the whole thing is highlighted, hit Control C. Come back into the game. Then you need yourself a command block, which means you need to be in creative mode. In single player, you can do that either by having the world in creative already, or if it's not, you can hit escape, options, thought it was options, open to LAN, and you turn allow cheats on. I'm already in creative mode, so I don't need to do that. So you turn allow cheats on, hit start LAN world. I'm going to hit cancel. But that will then allow you to put yourself into creative mode by doing something like game mode C, or creative, or 3. Eventually, you're going to need to type it out fully. And then you can type give at p com, and you can hit tab a few times. You'll get Minecraft command block. And now you can see you have a command block. So I'm just going to put this command block down, right click, paste in the command. Now it's a big command. It's got 13,000 characters in it approximately, but you just hit done. You then get yourself a redstone torch or redstone block or a button or some way to power the command block. I'm just going to put the torch down, and we have a creeper. This is in fact a little mini base. You can either get inside the creeper from his head, or I believe there's a door. Door on this side. That's this particular schematic. But as you can see, it recreated a bunch of stuff. We have blocks, stairs facing different directions, chests with inventory, torches, brewing stand with potions. So basically, every block I've tried, it works and recreates it. Otherwise, that would be a bug. So, why did I make this utility? Why can't you just use MC Edit, since MC Edit made the schematic? Well, sometimes you don't have access to the world files, or sometimes it's just easier doing it this way. But you can play on a multiplayer server and not have access to the schematic, to the world files, but you do have the schematic you want to add to the world, and you are either an operator or you are able to be given ops to use a command block. And if you can get a command block and not have access to the world, this utility will allow you to still put in schematics. Also, well, you could say, well, what about there's structure blocks that were added? They work, but only within a specific world, unless, again, you have access to the save file. You have to copy the saved NBT structure files and copy them to another world if you want to stick them into another world. And, in fact, structure blocks don't correctly recreate everything. Specifically, I've noted problems with complex rails. If you have multiple rail lines, tracks going next to each other. So if there was a setup that looked maybe something like this, this won't always be correctly recreated by schematics. You know, sometimes the blocks would be placed in different orders and you get something like that instead of what you wanted. And my utility has a mode that will correctly place rails and other things like that that can be mixed up. So this is made for 1.12. It will work with 1.11. It won't work, I don't think, with 1.10 or early. Well, it may even work with earlier. I'll show you something later, though, that won't work with anything but 1.11 and higher. But let me show you another example here. I'll go with the rainbow creeper now. 2 command blocks to generate. Blah, 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 blah. What you can do, and let's move this down a little, is instead of copying it manually, you can click the copy command 1, and we'll stick that here. And then open this command block and click copy command 2, and stick that there. And then we just power them in the same. So that's half the creeper. There's the other half. Happens to be facing this way. There we go. So another schematic, this time using the new 1.12 blocks, the terracotta, and the concrete. But as I said, as long as you're not using, or you're not trying to import a schematic that uses 1.12 blocks, they should import perfectly fine into 1.11 or possibly even earlier. So let's explain some of the settings. First, when you make a build, the first command block you can place down, and additional command blocks are set here going east with no space. So if I turn on here, I'm facing north right now, so the additional command blocks will go east with no space between them. Now there's different settings. You can go west or north or south, and potentially with a space between if you want to set up some crazy redstone to power them all, using like delays. Let's set up something real quick. Now I wouldn't recommend doing it this way. There's a much better way I'll show you later. Let's get some stone dust. But theoretically you could set up something like this, and then so it would power them all in turn. But in general, there's a better way I'll show you a bit later. I want to do that, but you can say east no space, west, whatever. You can have them in minecart command blocks, going down a track activated by activator rail, or you can keep using the same command block. I mean, the default is east no space, and I would generally recommend using that unless you have some reason not to. The next thing to note is if this is the first command block, the schematic is built starting here, which is 1 block south and 1 block east of the first command block. And then if you have some more, they'll just go along like that. But yeah, the build area will start here, go this way, and up, obviously. Up. So yeah, that's the build area, and it will go for whatever size the schematic is, obviously. You can change where the build area is by adjusting this build area offset. So for some reason, let's say the schematic you have has an ocean level, but that's like 5 or 6 blocks high. Let's say it's 6 blocks high. You can set this to -6 so that you can place this block here on the surface, and then it will go down so that the ocean level is like right here. Actually, yeah, if it's 6 blocks high, you want this to be -7. Otherwise, the water level would be at the top of the command blocks. Let's go with the rest of the settings. Base, sometimes your schematic has sand at the very bottom of it, and you don't want the sand to fall. You're building it up in the air for whatever reason. You can have a base of dirt or grass or stone or cobblestone or sandstone, glass or barrier blocks. Basically, this is put underneath, one layer underneath the build offset for the size of the structure. Stick this back to 0 before that causes problems later. Those are the main settings. When we have a bunch of options here, quiet runs a command at the beginning so that the command blocks don't output to the chat console. Clear will run some commands to delete anything in the build area. You didn't notice it because it was already filled with air over here, but I could run these again, and you can see that clear option was set. So if I run this first one again, the top disappears because it cleared it and then put the bottom back. No dangerous blocks will not put in TNT, lava, or fire. I actually was testing a few structures that apparently were built with fire spread turned off, and they quickly burnt themselves down, so I added in this option. Besides just the blocks, this will actually recreate any entities, and that includes mobs, including the monsters. So no monsters will turn off hostile creatures, creepers, skeletons, zombies, etc. Whereas no mobs will also not import, cows, pigs, rabbits, sheep. So generally, no monsters is turned on, but I leave friendly creatures because you might be importing a mob farm or something like that, a cow farm, something. Remove barriers. Sometimes barrier blocks are used in a schematic to, especially with flying machines, so they don't fly off immediately. So this will spawn in everything and then remove the barrier blocks. We'll come back to limit command distance later. Ignore wire power. If this is on, all redstone will be imported as unpowered, at least the redstone dust itself. This lets us do fills of for redstone lines instead of placing each bit of redstone individually with its power level. So it results ultimately in smaller commands, but that's going to cause problems with certain really complex redstone creations, so you can turn that off. Complex rails. Normally, if you don't have rails running right next to each other, you can spawn in the rails in any order and they'll be fine. But if you're running rails right next to each other, because rails change or turn to face which, as you place them, they change their direction. That counts even when command blocks spawn them in. So if they run right next to each other, turning on complex rails will put them in the an order that should have them facing the correct way. Basically, it follows the direction of the rail lines instead of doing, left to right, north, east to west, north to south, bottom to top order, which is how the blocks are normally spawned in. Min water will only bring in water sources and not partially filled, flowing blocks of water. But generally that causes problems, and you just want to import all the water, flowing and non-flowing. Otherwise, you have to go around and update all the sources to make them flowing again. Min entities, 4 entities, the monsters and the mobs. This basically just imports their type, position, and facing, and leaves everything else at default, which basically means they'll be at full health. And if you're importing villagers, they might get different trades. So if you're concerned about importing villagers and their trades, disable this, and it'll specify all their properties out. Otherwise, it just specifies the basic properties, where they are, where they're facing, what they are. Hollow out, I'll come to later, along with limit command distance. And finally, server safe. Right now, I'm on a single player world, and 32,000 long characters. Commands that are that long are fine. I found, though, on a particular server that I was using, that I would get kicked. So server safe reduces that to 30,000 characters, 7% difference. So you get more commands potentially, but I was no longer getting kicked when I tried to put in commands that long into blocks. So if you're trying to do it online, you're getting kicked, turn that on. You might need another command block or 2, depending on how many command blocks you need. But yeah, it's really annoying getting kicked after putting a command in every single command block. So I've been skipping over part of the output here, and time to show what that is. It's not your first time watching one of my schematic to command block videos. You'll know exactly what it is. So this will need 95 width, 106 height, length. So I'm going to move off a ways here. I'm thinking that should be good. So this takes 18 command blocks, as you can see here. I also added a slightly new feature. It says you'll likely need a view distance of 9 to properly recreate this schematic, so that the whole thing is in the loaded area. 9 is actually, the default is 12. This only warns you if it's 8 or above. So I'm going to put down only one command block here. It says I need 18 command blocks to generate, but it's giving me a command block generator command. Now, normally, if it's only 3 or 4, a few command blocks, this isn't needed. I would recommend placing this command block facing up so you have a circle at the top, because when you run this command block generator, it's going to replace that command block and it's going to turn it. And if it doesn't turn it, it also seems to not delete the command, which is what you want. You want this one blank. But after I place this, you'll see it will be... Sorry about that, just had a little technical issue. It's all fixed up now. So basically, you want to place a command block facing up, and then you come back to the program and copy this command block generator command. This will automatically place all the other command blocks for you. Put that in here. The reason why you want this facing up is it's going to be replaced by a command block facing north that is empty. And if it is already facing north, it appears to not actually replace it. So as long as it's facing a different direction, it will actually replace it and empty out the command. We just want to power this block. It places all the other command blocks we need, and it makes this handy flying machine that will activate all of them for us. You just want to remove the torch here. And you see we got 1, 2, 3, 4 command blocks, and then the 5th command block is facing up. In fact, every 5th command block is special. So every 5th one is facing up. This happens to only need 18 commands. You can see this is 15, 16, 17, 18. If it went up to 25, the 25th would be facing south, so you'd have a square on this side here where you have all circles, and that's how you can tell. Actually, if looking at this side, they're all circles. The 5th is pointing up, and then the 25th will be a square, and that's for every 25th. And on 25th, 50th, 75, 100, etc., etc. If you have more than 100 command blocks, you're actually making a really big schematic. But I have tested that large, so this is going to be simple. So we're just going to fill these in here. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. I usually like to come down between the 5th and 6th. That allows you to reach the first block to the 10th, and then you reposition and do it again. So copy command 1, 2, and remember when you hit done, actually the game is going to lag about a half second, so you can't quite move yet. So I just try not to. 3, 4. Once you see the text update in chat, you're good to move around. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once you're used to this, you can get going pretty quickly. This is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then I like to let the text disappear. You can activate this flying machine just by putting any movable block on the face of this observer. There is a furnace here which is non-movable, and there's a furnace at the other end to catch it. So we'll just place it here, and I left enough room. Just barely, but you can see it's being constructed. A little bit of lag, but that's expected as all of this is getting built up. And there we go. All done. Imported the schematic. Very nice one. You can then dismantle the flying machine. I would suggest first removing the redstone block in case you accidentally happen to activate it going the other way. You can see it did happen to leave back. These are ghost blocks. If I log out and log back in, they'd be gone, or you can just break them. I would then, after getting rid of the redstone block, get rid of the 2 observers, and then it's safe. It's not going to go anywhere, so you can just then get rid of the rest of the blocks. You can get rid of the command blocks. One thing to note, I probably didn't mention, is each additional command block after the first one is going to leave one little piece of sand, because they create falling sand that minecart command blocks are riding, and yeah, that's how it works. So I want to show you 2 more things. This is going long. I am sorry, apologize. It's basics of how to do it. We got some not so basic basics. Actually, let me go into spectator. Up here is a really nice schematic. Sorry, I don't know who made it, but it is called Bliss Ocean. It's Asian themed island type thing. A dragon, and I'm assuming those are cherry trees. There's a bit of a ravine with some giant lilies, and it looks fantastic. But two things: it's huge. Well, it's like 200 by 200, and it doesn't have very many solid areas of the same block. In fact, you can see here that this is all kind of speckled, and if I go inside, there's a little bit of a hollow area, but even that is all speckled. I'm assuming all of the filled in areas are speckled, that this was made using some kind of world edit brush that randomized blocks, so there's not much in the way of same blocks in a row. My schematic, my utility looks at the schematic and tries to make it fills as much as possible, because that places multiple blocks with one command, but if it can't do fills, it has to set each block one at a time, and that takes a lot of commands. In fact, this schematic, if I run it through my program here, this ocean, it's going to take a long time and then come back with something. Part of the fix was putting it in debug mode earlier. 25,085 commands. Yeah, that's way too many. So yeah, one thing I implemented is this hollow out feature. This will try to find blocks that are completely hidden. They're surrounded by other solid blocks, and it will remove them. It won't place them. If it's next to glass, or a fence post, or iron bars, or a piston, then it will place it. So for a schematic like this one, this will greatly reduce the number of commands needed. This can, though, potentially break some things. Specifically, if you have pistons pushing blocks and some of those blocks are not exposed to air, or something like that, then they won't be placed, and obviously that piston won't work. So it's not going to work for everything, but it'll work for some things. So if I now run this, it should take something on the order of 417. I do have hollow out is checked. This is actually going to take a long time to display, only because it's going to try to write out all 417 commands, and that takes a lot of word wrapping, which is actually what's taking up most of this time. I think it only takes like 5 seconds to figure out all the commands. It then takes another long time to do all the word wrapping. Now, this says you'll likely need a view distance of 24. That's what I do have mine set to right now. But this is a width of 270 blocks. 417 is going to go way past the end of that. So if I want them all loaded, yeah, that's not going to work. So that's why I have this limit command distance. Instead of making one row of command blocks, it will now make multiple rows of command blocks, not going wider than the schematic. So I already have this set up here, because you wouldn't want to wait for me to type in even pacing in 417 commands. But here it is. Catch up, you can see it is in view. So I'll go back here, limiting command blocks to row lengths of 250 commands. 2 rows will be needed. Each additional row is 3 blocks above and 1 block further back from the build area compared to the previous row. The command block generator command will place all of these for you. It won't make a second flying machine though. It'll make the first flying machine, but not the second. And that's because if it does put a redstone block here, that will interfere with this first command flying machine. Sorry, because of quasi connectivity. But it will place all these. You have to then fill them in. It took me a long time, and I mean, I think it was about 45 minutes. It's whatever. I will now run them for you. Oh, and because of the way I reset these, I have to do back one here. This is going to be very laggy. Here we go. The first 3 command blocks, or first 2.5, were just clearing the area. But you can see there's some things poking up, but yeah, it considers the bottom as potentially viewable, so it places in everything on the bottom, even though, as in most cases, you'll be placing it on something. See, we're already like a quarter of the way down this first line, and we're still just placing the bottom. You can see how everything is all speckled. Can't get very big fills. Here you go, we're starting to lift up the walls, and you can see the water. It's actually mostly glass blocks, but it's supposed to be water. It's all being filled in. I just have to be careful not to get caught in here. But yeah, here we go. That's actually the bottom of the hollow area that was previously. Because it's next to air, it thinks it's potentially viewable. There's no easy way to actually see if it's accessible from the outside. So if it's next to air on any one of its 6 sides or any other block that is considered transparent, it will get added. A bit laggy here, but yeah, the biggest issue is lighting updates. So as blocks get added, they update the lighting, and that's really what's caused lag. See, okay, we're about 3/4 of the way done with the first row here, and it's coming up. And there's some blocks left behind, but they're just ghost blocks. Alright. Top of the void area is getting filled in. Now, yeah, you can see this is going to work. It it definitely is better for 400 commands than 2500 commands. But yeah, creepers would be a problem. But if you're okay with that potential, it does definitely save a lot of command blocks. Come on. Get stuck somehow. Oh, no, it was just kind of big lag spike. Well, I could move around, it just things weren't updating. Should be getting near the end of this first row of command blocks. Yeah, okay, that is done. And then we can start off this second flying machine. Just need to first place the block of redstone on it. Let's also get rid of some of the sand. Block of redstone goes right there. it's easy to copy the flying machine. It's just a few blocks. And then we'll get rid of that and set it off on its way. You can see this is now creating more command block minecarts, which actually contain the commands, one each. Let's see if I can get here. Okay, that's some lag. There we go. Yeah, this is approximately ground level here. With the view distance estimate it gives is you can be at that first command block and still keep the opposite corner loaded. So actually by moving into the center, you'll keep quite a lot larger area loaded. So you could basically half that view distance, but obviously you have to first get it started, and you'll probably want to keep the far side loaded at all times, even at the start, or else some blocks will be not placed correctly. Okay, oh, here we go. It's just, I mean, it's all real laggy from the lighting updates and the placing of all these blocks. I believe it's every 4 ticks the flying machine for redstone. I'm not sure if it's redstone ticks or game ticks. Anyway, it should be quick, but you know, the game wasn't actually designed to handle all this updates, but it does work. As you can see, the schematic is nearly done at this point. While we're waiting, I'll do this a little out of order. I would like to support the Better Together update that came out for the Windows 10 versions and some of the console versions. I'm not sure if it's on mobile phone either. It may be. But as of right now, I can't. As you saw, the way this works is it creates falling sand with minecarts riding the falling sand, and as of yet, I don't see a way of actually creating falling sand. I can create normal sand, but you can't have minecarts, riding normal sand. And without that ability, can't get multiple commands in a single command block in the Better Together update. Now, if anyone knows of a way of either creating falling sand with things riding on it, or another way of getting multiple commands in a single command block in the Better Together update, I'd love to know about it. That would allow me to get this working. In fact, except for the flying machine, I think all the commands I use should actually work fine in the Better Together update. I haven't gotten that very far. Yeah, so if someone knows how to get multiple commands in a single command block working in the Better Together update, I'd love to know about it. I guess I'll talk about the thing I would have talked about next. So yeah, right now, this utility is definitely tested most with schematics, .schematic files. I mean, I've mostly been using, well, I've been using ones from MC Edit, I've been using ones I've downloaded from Planet Minecraft, and a few other sites. I think there's a few other utilities that will also use .schematics. I believe World Edit is one. I don't know of specifically any schematics that I've tested from it, but because I've downloaded a bunch of schematics, I'm sure at least a few of them have been from World Edit. And the only known issue I have at the moment is, as far as I know, if you've tethered a animal like a sheep to a fence post, that tether may not spawn incorrectly because it relies on actual world coordinates, and I have to do everything off of relative world coordinates because I don't know the command block doesn't know its own coordinate. But as far as I know, that's the only thing that does not work right. Everything else should work. Paintings will occasionally not stick to the walls they're supposed to, but most of them should. Paintings work. I know item frames also work. So those are my only known issues. But like as I said, structure blocks, structure files, schematic files. Sorry, schematic files are what's tested most. Now, you can use structure blocks to create NBT structure files. And I'll show you in a minute, I've added preliminary support for them. Their file format is very different. It's also, I'll say, a lot more wordy. The internals of Minecraft have been changing, and now there's things like known as block state that gets exposed, and the NBT structure files basically save block state, whereas schematic files more deal with the binary data as stored in the Anvil file format. So that means I either need to create bigger commands, which is what I'm currently doing, that includes the wordy block state, where it has something like facing north instead of like just block data 5. And that's what I'm currently doing. I kind of would like to know if anyone has a set of routines that will convert between block data and like data values. Not block data, data between data values and block state. I don't know of any that utilities or functions that will convert between the two as of currently. Get a dragon coming in here. It's actually there. It's just the way it renders hasn't rendered in yet. So yeah, I can do two of the same. Basically a schematic and a structure of the same object, and you'll get a little bit bigger commands with the structure version of it. Normally, it's not that big of a difference, but it is a difference. You gonna fill in? There. Basically, if I couldn't see it before, like I was over here, it didn't actually draw it. Should be all done now. So the lag should be going away. Oh, yeah, here. Big at the end. Water I place last. Because if not all the you could have a waterfall, and if I place it early, it could flow the wrong way. So water, mobs, a lot, those are done at the end. All right, so let's quickly show structure support. So I'm gonna first, I have this pagoda. We'll do the schematic. Takes 3 commands. Do them manually. Should be plenty of room. 2, 3. Copy command 1 and 2. Copy command 3, and I'll show you that these are all, well, technically they're a little over the limit, but you can go a little higher than that. But last command, you see, we hardly need it, but it's 3,000 characters. It may be, it looks like a lot of torches, which are also placed last because they need walls to go on. But it may be 20 or 30 torches there. So I'll power these in order. 2, 3. Very nice looking pagoda. Shows you slabs, there's stair blocks, a bunch of different things. Not their standard wood, it's dark oak. So let me move over here. Happen to know that it's also going to take 3 commands. I've tested this, obviously. But here's the MBT file. Ooh. Alright, sorry about that. Little technical error again. I should mention that not all features work with MBT structure files yet, and hollow out is one that doesn't. Actually, I don't need limit command distance either. So hollow out, I know complex rails doesn't, and probably min entities doesn't either because the names of all the settings are a little different. Let's just go. So 3 commands, and this time, instead of being a little over 3,000, you can see the third command is 22,000 characters, so quite a bit bigger. And yeah, as you can see, like, wood slab, half is top, variant is dark oak, where that would all just be a single block data number previously, or if it, in the schematic version. Let's copy command 1. Yeah, so these take a little more to express because I don't know how to convert it. It will be different for every single block type, and so I haven't written. I'm not sure anyone has a conversion utility. If someone knows, if someone has, that would be great. If I could get a copy. Looks like I didn't line them up perfectly, but you can see they are basically identical, which they should be. They are representing the same structure, they're just were saved in different ways. Yeah, so it's a whole all the way through. Yeah, so there we initial support for NBT structure files, and that's about it. As I said, if you know how to get multiple commands working in the Better Together update, I'd love to support that. If you know how to convert the block state to block data ID and vice versa, I'd love to know how to do that. If someone has an existing routine. But that's everything. So I'd like to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully with some more updates to this utility. Thanks for watching.